Breaking news. It is Thursday, January 29, 2026. And if you have been following the conflict in Europe, you really need to stop what you're doing.
The headlines this morning are, and I'm not exaggerating, rewriting the textbooks on modern warfare.
First up, the company Ukrainian Armor has officially developed a wing-type FPV drone. But this one carries a massive 120 millimeter mortar round.
Yeah, heavy artillery has just grown wings. And that's really only half the story.
Right.
At the same time, reports are confirming that Russian warships are, well, they're effectively vanishing from the Black Sea.
Vanishing.
Ukraine is dominating the entire maritime domain with new, frankly, terrifying drone tech that's pushing the Russian fleet towards extinction.
Okay, before we dive into the nuts and bolts of these game-changing systems, a quick message for everyone listening who supports the defense of Ukraine and Europe.
Please subscribe to Defense Reports. It's your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports.
You really do not want to miss what we have coming up.
The pace of innovation we're seeing right now is just, it's unlike anything in military history.
I'm Alex. Join me with Aria in the latest from Defense Report for a sharp, no-nonsense breakdown of the latest in global defense news, military technology, and strategic developments.
And today we're going to cover a weapon that might just rewrite the entire rulebook on warfare itself.
We're talking about the 120 millimeter flying mortar.
And I want to be really clear about what this is. This isn't some small quadcopter dropping a grenade. Not at all.
No.
This is a system that takes a heavy artillery shell, the kind that usually needs a whole crew and a massive steel tube, and flies it 100 kilometers on a one-way trip.
100 kilometers. That's a sledgehammer that can reach out and touch you from 3 districts away.
Yeah.
So our mission for this deep dive is to unpack how Ukraine is industrializing attrition.
They're basically erasing the very idea of safety for the Russian rear guard.
And the lineup of insights we had today is just packed. We're going to talk about the spiderweb operation.
Oh, this is a truly wild story. It's about how Ukraine used beehive trucks inside Russia to destroy $7 billion worth of strategic bombers.
$7 billion. With a B. Okay, we're also going to look at the Stalker 5. This is a naval drone that costs about the same as a luxury sedan, but it sinks warships.
And we have to talk about the new phenomenon of reusable interceptor drones that are literally hunting Russian Shaheds out of the sky.
It's this shift from, garage-made warfare to factory-standardized warfare.
We're seeing numbers like 20,000 drones a month, and honestly, that's just the starting line.
Okay, let's unpack this flying mortar situation. This is the headline that just grabbed me by the collar this morning. To understand why this is such a massive leap, we have to look at the old way of doing things.
For sure. So traditionally, if you want to fire a 120 millimeter mortar round, like the Finnish 120 KRH-92 that Ukraine uses, you're dealing with a beast of a weapon.
It's heavy.
It's heavy and it needs a crew, a towing vehicle. But the biggest limitation, range, you're looking at maybe 7 to 9 kilometers max.
7 to 9 kilometers. That puts your soldiers right in the danger zone.
Exactly. You are well within range of enemy counter-battery fire. You fire that mortar, the enemy radar picks up the trajectory, and, seconds later, shells are landing right back on your head.
It's a high-risk, high-stress job for that crew.
Absolutely. So enter Ukrainian Armor, Ukrainska Bronetechnika, and their CEO, Vladislav Belbus. They looked at this whole problem and basically asked, what if we just gave the mortar shell wings?
It sounds so simple, almost like a cartoon.
It does, but the engineering is fascinating. They developed a wing-type FPV drone designed specifically to just hug this massive 120 millimeter round. And by putting wings and an engine on it, they took that range from around 8 kilometers to 100 kilometers.
That's a range leap of over 10 times. But I have to ask about the weight. A 120 millimeter shell is heavy. How do you get that to fly 100 kilometers? Drones usually struggle with that kind of payload over distance.
Okay, so there are 2 pieces of engineering magic here. First, they looked at the shell itself. A standard mortar round has a tail unit, right? Fins that stabilize it.
Right, when it comes out of the tube.
But if you're flying it on a drone, you don't need that tail. It's just dead weight.
So they chopped it off.
Effectively, yes. They remove that tail unit. That drops the munitions weight from about 16.7 kilograms down to 14.5. And in aviation, shedding over 2 kilos is a massive, massive gain.
And the propulsion, I'm guessing this isn't running on ALE batteries.
No, and that's the second part of the secret sauce. This is not a battery-powered quadcopter. This uses an internal combustion engine, an ICE, running on liquid fuel.
That old-fashioned gas.
Exactly. Liquid fuel has a much, much higher energy density than batteries. It's the only way you're getting a nearly 15-kilogram warhead to travel 100 kilometers. It's essentially a mini airplane that's just a delivery truck for high explosives.
So let's look at the tactical map. What does this mean for a Russian commander sitting in his bunker, say, 80 kilometers behind the front line?
It means his definition of safe just completely evaporated. Tactically, this lets Ukraine hit targets beyond the radio horizon.
We're talking divisional logistics hubs, command centers.
Fuel depots, secondary supply lines, all these places used to be areas where you could park trucks and, sleep relatively soundly now. They are under the same threat level as a guy in a frontline trench.
And the way it hits is different too, isn't it? I was reading about plunging fire.
Yes, this is so important. Think about traditional artillery. A shell from a howitzer comes in at an angle. If a tank is hiding behind a tall building, it might be safe. The shell just hits the building.
But this drone, it doesn't have that problem.
No, this drone flies over the building, over the hill, and then it can dive vertically, 90 degrees straight down.
Right into the roof.
Straight into the engine deck of a tank, or down the ventilation shaft of a bunker, or directly into a trench. It gives you a precision verticality that traditional artillery just cannot match. It's like a sniper shot, but with the power of a heavy mortar.
What strikes me, though, is that we're not just talking about a few prototypes here. This feels like a major shift in how Ukraine is managing the entire war economy.
That is the second major theme here, industrial scale. We've moved way past the days of soldiers and dugouts 3D printing grenade mounts. This is becoming a standardized heavy industry.
And we saw this with the precursor, right? The UB-60D.
Correct. The smaller version, carrying a 60-millimeter mortar round, that was a huge success. The cost was only about $500 per unit.
$500 for a guided precision weapon.
Yeah, compare that to a Javelin missile that costs hundreds of thousands. And the scale is just staggering. Production of those smaller drones is already at 20,000 units per month.
20,000 a month.
And they have the capacity to triple that to 60,000. They arrive at the front in these kits of 250 drones ready to fly. This is the economy of attrition. You are delivering a massive, high-explosive punch for the price of a mid-range laptop.
And there's a safety aspect, too, isn't there? I remember horror stories from early in the war about improvised explosives going off in operators' hands.
Huge safety aspect. These are codified munitions. They're factory certified. It's so much safer for the Ukrainian operator than taping an RPG warhead to a drone and just hoping the fuse works. It's reliable. It's standardized.
Now, I want to play devil's advocate for a second.
Yeah.
Because there are still people saying, hold on, drones aren't everything. I was reading a piece by Jakub Jajke titled, I'd rather have a mortar than a drone.
And it's a valid perspective. It brings a necessary voice of reason to all the tech hype. Jajke makes a strong point. Mortars are, dumb, but they are reliable.
Right.
They work in snow, they work in rain, at night, and most importantly, you cannot jam a mortar shell with electronic warfare.
A dumb shell doesn't need a GPS signal. If the weather is bad or the jamming is heavy, your fancy drone might be a paperweight, but the mortar tube still works.
Exactly. Electronic warfare, or EW, cuts the signal. The radio horizon limits how far you can even control the drone. These are very real limitations.
So is this a 120-millimeter drone trying to replace the mortar?
No, and that's the key synthesis here. It's not a replacement. It's a totally new capability. It's creating a middle ground between a mortar and a cruise missile. And Ukraine is actively solving the jamming issue with AI.
This connects to that spiderweb operation we teased earlier, right? The solution to jamming.
It does. If the signal is cut by Russian EW, the new systems integrate machine vision AI. The drone basically looks at the terrain, recognizes the target it was locked onto, and guides itself in autonomously.
So it doesn't need the pilot anymore for those last few kilometers.
Not at all. You can jam the radio, but you can't jam the drone's eyes. It's terrifying innovation.
It really is.
It's the only way to survive in an environment that's just saturated with EW. It turns the drone from a remote-controlled plane into a smart, autonomous munition.
Okay, let's shift gears from the land to the water. Because the headline, Russian warships disappear, is just, it's wild. We're talking about a country with almost no traditional navy dominating the Black Sea.
It's a masterclass in asymmetric warfare. The Russian Black Sea fleet has been, for all intents and purposes, forced into port or destroyed. They're hiding. And the new tech is impressive. Have you seen the specs on the Stalker 5?
I have. This thing is 5 meters long, carries a 150-kilogram warhead, and costs 60,000 euros.
That is the price of a nice luxury car.
Right. And it has a range of 600 kilometers. That's about 375 miles.
That puts almost anywhere in the Black Sea within reach. But here's the thing. It's not just a suicide drone. It can also deliver supplies to troops on islands or other hard-to-reach coasts.
So it's a robotic supply boat that can also blow up a frigate. And I heard the Sea Baby drones, the ones we've seen before, are evolving.
They are. The Sea Baby drones are now shooting back. They've equipped them with flamethrowers and machine guns.
Flamethrowers on sea drones. That sounds like something out of a video game.
It does, but it solves a very specific problem, fighting Russian helicopters. Before, a helicopter could just hover over the water and hunt these drones. Now, the drone fights back. It changes the risk calculation for that pilot.
And all this military pressure is happening alongside some serious economic pressure.
Right. You have to look at the bigger picture. 14 European nations have banned Russian tankers from the Baltic Sea, cracking down on that so-called shadow fleet. So while Ukraine squeezes their military lifeline with drones, Europe is squeezing their economic one.
It's a pincer movement. Okay, I want to talk about something that feels straight out of sci-fi. We've talked about suicide drones, but now we're seeing reusable drones. The Baba Yaga.
The Baba Yaga, or vampire. Yeah, it's a nightmare for Russian troops. These are large hexacopters, 6 rotors. They don't just crash into a target. They fly over, drop mines or heavy shells, and then just return home to reload.
And they're dropping big stuff. I saw reports of them dropping full 155-millimeter artillery shells. That's over 40 kilograms.
It's a terrifying evolution of gravity bombing, and because they're reusable, the cost per strike goes down significantly. It's forced Russia to try and copy them with their own versions, the Night Witch and the Bulldog 13.
But Ukraine is already a step ahead with anti-drones, drone sets.
Oh, this is the interceptor war. Ukraine is producing over 1,000 interceptors a day. Look at the Sting drone. It flies at 204 kilometers per hour.
That is fast.
It's likely the world's fastest combat drone in its class. And they're using these cheap, fast drones to ram or shoot down expensive Russian Shaheds and recon drones like the Orlan or Zala.
It makes so much sense economically. Why shoot $1 million Patriot missile at a cheap drone when you can send a $500 bullet or Sting to knock it out of the sky?
Precisely. It preserves your high-end air defense for ballistic missiles. It's just smart economics.
Okay, we promised to talk about Operation Spiderweb. This is the one that really blew my mind. We're not talking about the front line here. We're talking deep, deep inside Russia.
This is the pinnacle of Ukrainian special drone operations. The strike happened thousands of kilometers inside Russia. The target was strategic aviation, the Tu-95MS and Tu-22M3 bombers.
The very planes that launch cruise missiles at Ukrainian cities.
Yes. These bases are usually considered untouchable because of the distance.
So they didn't fly the drones all the way from Ukraine?
No, and that's the genius of it. They used OSA drones, but they transported them into Russia by truck. They used these beehive containers that were hidden under fake rooftops on the trucks.
Wait. So they had trucks driving around inside Russia with drones hidden inside them like bees in a hive.
Exactly. It's a Trojan horse tactic. They drove close to the airfields, popped the roofs off these containers, and launched a whole swarm from close range.
That is incredible. And the damage.
They destroyed or damaged an estimated $7 billion worth of strategic aviation assets. These are aircraft Russia cannot easily replace. The production lines for these bombers largely don't even exist anymore.
$7 billion. That's an asymmetric return on investment that is hard to even comprehend.
It proves that the safe rear area is a complete myth. If you can smuggle a beehive truck near an airfield, no bomber is safe, no matter how far from the border it is.
So let's just step back and summarize what we've talked about today. The geometry of the entire battlefield has fundamentally changed.
It really has. We've got 120-millimeter mortars that now fly 100 kilometers on their own. We have boats that are robots armed with flamethrowers.
We have air defense that is actually just faster, angrier drones.
And we have industrial scale 1,000 units a month, moving towards 60,000. This is not a cottage industry anymore.
It's the industrialization of precision attrition.
That's a great way to put it.
So here's a thought I want to leave you with. We talked about the 120-millimeter flying mortar. Right now, Ukraine is producing 20,000 of these types of munitions a month, and they're integrating AI to ignore jamming.
Right.
So If you're a military planner anywhere in the world, not just in Russia, what happens to the concept of a safe rear area? If an enemy can launch 20,000 heavy precision strikes a month that ignore your EW and fly 100 kilometers,
Hmm.
is the era of the armored column officially over? Can you ever mass tanks again?
That's the question that keeps generals awake at night. If you can't mass your forces without them being wiped out by cheap drones, how do you even conduct an offensive? It might be the end of mover warfare as we know it.
A terrifying and fascinating thought. You've been listening to Defense Report by Alex and Aria, where we analyze the latest in military strategy, global defense, and advanced weaponry.
Stay curious and stay informed.
And don't forget, subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. We'll catch you next time.